Yo, what's up everybody? Today I'm going to be showing you how to upgrade your 4Runner rear mud flaps. If you are like me, or maybe you're thinking about doing it soon, maybe you're running a 33, a 34, or a 35 inch tire, well you've probably trimmed your rear mud flap. This is an OEM one. You can see still molded to the fender well, which is really nice. You have to cut them because they're pretty rigid and they actually end up contacting the tire if you do any sort of movement with the rear wheel here, up and down. So, a lot of companies will sell replacement mud flaps, but they actually don't hang down. The problem with this is you kind of, apart from protecting the fender well here and stopping rocks from getting back there, you're not really doing anything for your own rear bumper. The people behind you on the highway, you're knocking rocks into them still. So, my buddy Ambush Outdoors actually showed me what he did for mud flaps. I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to be doing. It's the same thing. It's these Husky Liners Long John mud flaps. And so, these are some long suckers. Basically what's going to end up happening is we're just going to line this up. It's hard to see. I'm going to set up a tripod so you guys can see better. With the OEM bolts, I'm just going to drill some holes in these new mud flaps and hopefully get the line up pretty good. And so we're going to have some coverage on the back of the vehicle. Eventually probably replacing the front as well with a set of these. But I'm going to be upgrading to some probably 34 inch tires, some negative 38 offset wheels here. I got a 0 offset wheel with a 33 inch tire. It's not bad, but you can see it's still within the fender well. And so I'm going to try to make these mud flaps go out a little bit. So it's going to actually make up for that increased offset when I do that. So anyways, I'm going to get my phone set up in a tripod here and I'll show you guys how I'm going to actually put these on the vehicle. All right, so here we are at the back of the vehicle. I could 100% take my wheel off. It is cold in this garage and I really do not want to lift up my truck and take this wheel off. So I'm going to try to do this without taking my wheel off. And so the first thing I'm going to kind of do here is I'm just looking at my existing mud flap. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there's 7 bolts back here. They're all 10 mils. You can kind of see. Pretty easy to access even with the tire still on. Yeah, we can get to them. And so I'm going to take this off, but before I do that, I'm really going to look at how this is going to line up. And so I'm putting the mud flap in like this because there's going to be some holes in my bumper here. And so I really want to see how much I can cover up in the stock holes. Obviously not all of this is going to cover up. Mostly I'm guessing I'm going to mount it or on the edge of the fender here. It's going to be tough really to do anything else but the edge of the fender. And there is some existing holes here, and so I'm going to try to use those. I might even just do a zip tie on some of the more innermost bolts, just because this obviously has a molded offset where it's going inward. This does not, it's flat. So what I think I'm going to end up doing here is just getting a rough idea of how far up the fender I want to place this. And then I'm going to make some marks and I'm going to take the old mud flap off. I'm going to line up the holes with the new mud flap and drill and then look if there's any way I can get some, maybe it's a zip tie, maybe it's some other creative design to get another secure point closer to the inside of the wheel well. And so for now, I'm just going to fool around with this a bit and I'm going to see if I can get it lined up, use some chalk to make my lines. Be right back. All right, voila. I have the stock mud flap off. You can see there's 1, 2, 3 kind of stock mounting points. This is just a little bit of plastic clip. You can see it, I'll pull it up here. Just one of these little bad boys. You can pull them out really nice. This one's actually still intact, so I'll probably drill a hole for that too. And then on the interior here, you have 1, 2, kind of 3 right here. And then you actually have if you can see my hand down here, sorry, you have another bolt down here. And so the question is, how many holes do we want to drill in our new mud flap to make it work? Well, if I'm going to put this over here, it does naturally fit pretty nicely. And so, as you can see, we are covering quite a bit of the inside here if I hold it up. That's not bad. I probably want it a little bit higher because the main thing that I really want to cover up too is this gap. I don't want any crud getting back there. If it's rocks, if it's snow, if it's salt, I really want the interior of this mud flap to be covering that gap. That is important. We also don't want it too far in because that would defeat the purpose of having a mud flap. So we want to make it pretty balanced, covering enough of the inside, but also covering enough the outside so that you aren't spraying rocks behind you or just destroying your own bumper. especially if you have a stock bumper like me, with salt, with rocks, with debris. And so I'm gonna do a little bit more measuring, but this is kind of the thoughts that are going through my head. And so I wanna make sure it's inside enough that it's covering everything, has enough of a mounting point, outside enough that it is blocking anything from going backwards, and it's high enough so it's not touching the ground, but it's low enough that it's covering all the upspray. And so I'm gonna do a little bit of math in my head here, see what I come up with, and then I'm gonna let you guys know kind of how I arrived to where I arrive. So be right back. All right guys, a little bit of progress here. So I have put a white mark of chalk on the mud flap. This white mark lines up with the first bolt hole. Why? Because that's where I wanna put the mud flap. Wrong mud flap. Wait a second. What have I done? No, correct mud flap. And so, yeah, it was just on the other side. And so why have I put that there? Because it's gonna line up with this bolt. Because I've also put a white mark up here because I know that's gonna go flush against there. And when I do that, that gives me the perfect length on the bottom. So as you can see, it's covering up the hole in there completely once it's in line. Boom, and then it's just long enough and it is offset enough that I'm happy with it. And so I've put a mark to refresh up here to know how long I want the mud flap to go either up or down. And then I've marked the hole where the bolt is gonna go first so I can use the old mud flap over top of that one. As you can see, I've also actually made a mark in the exact place on the other mud flap so it's easier. And so what I'm gonna do with these then, in the next step, which I will show you guys, is I'm just gonna line these up so the holes are like that, and then I'm just gonna use a piece of chalk to outline where I need to drill holes in the new mud flap. Before I do that, I need to think about things to make sure I'm not missing anything, but this is kind of be my process so far. I hope this is helpful. I will be back once I look into this a little bit further. All right, so what I've done here is this is the stock mud flap. I just flattened it out and then took a thin piece of chalk and put my holes on here. So I'm gonna drill some holes. Gonna have to find what bit size this is. I'll match those up in a minute here. But I just put a piece of chalk through, made sure they all line up on the truck. I'm just gonna drill them out, and then we're gonna make sure everything lines up. If it doesn't, well, that's just life, and we will figure it out. And if the hole is too big and it sucks, then we'll use zip ties. And if that doesn't work, that'd be just terrible. And so I'm gonna drill some holes and make sure this lines up good, but I'm prepared for the worst. And so let me figure out what size drill bit I'm gonna use and get to it. All right, everybody, I got my mud flap here set up. I'm gonna be using a 5/16 drill bit. That's pretty much the exact same size as the OEM holes in the mud flap. Got this leveraged a little bit here just to make it easier. We're just gonna go full sand. Beauty. Okay, next hole. Beauty. Next hole. Beauty. And final hole. Beauty. So, as you can see, pretty easy. Now, if these match up, just gonna zoom this out a little bit. Actually, whoa, I can zoom in, hey. If these match up, well, all I'm gonna do is actually put the other mud flap on here and copy the holes. And then we saved ourselves so much work. So, let me see if this fits, BRB. So, as I kind of anticipated, not all the holes lined up perfectly. It wasn't completely straight. And so what I've done is I've kind of drilled two holes. And so the one on the right was a better hole. The one on the right, better hole. Better hole. I actually drilled the one on the left. It was a better hole. And so I'm not really too worried about having all these holes. I might, like, it's not bad to actually draw or drill 3 holes and then you can change them depending on your offset of your wheels and stuff like that. Measure twice, cut once, right? But I'm gonna bolt these up and see how they look. I might do another sort of like zip tie or some sort of hook on the interior because I don't want that to be flapping, but I'll show you guys what it looks like when I bolt it all up here. All right, so coming over here, I have on my left, this is the one I practiced all my holes with. I can just move some of these over just a tad bit, but we have washers, so that's not gonna matter. Once I was happy with everything, I just laid this one over top of the other one that hadn't been drilled out. Drilled all the holes were exactly where I wanted them. I added these right here. And so those are just gonna go on the plastic bracket on the inside to kind of pull it back so it doesn't hit the tire. I'm gonna go ahead and mount this up and I'll show you guys the angles that I have it at. The nice part about this is you can drill new holes if you wanna pull it out more, put it back in. It's a mud flap. It doesn't have to be perfect. This truck is not gonna go to SEMA, but it might. No, it won't. So yeah, I'm gonna mount these up and then I'll show you. All right guys, finished product, here we go. So I have my mud flap installed. As you can see, comes out a little bit farther, pretty flush. All the stock locations still. Around the back here. Boom. Not bad at all. And so with this, I added a few modifications here. I actually drilled 2 holes, you can kind of see in the bottom. So one here, one on the other side of there, and then I pulled out this little tab, and so the hole was here, and so I actually just did a little locating zip tie, and so that just keeps it from flapping around. So it's nice and secure. This is so much better than not having a mud flap, as you can see. It's not too obtrusive at all. Looks really natural, actually. I'm gonna put the other side on, but I'm really happy with this. This is like the perfect size for the 4th gen, these Husky Liner Long Johns. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of the video because the other side is just gonna be the exact same thing. I might take, yeah, actually no, you know what, I'll open the garage after and show you what it looks like from behind and everything like that. So anyways, I'm gonna go put the other side on. I just finished the passenger side here, same thing. Bolted right up with the holes. Actually, it looked just really good. I don't have the piece here isn't there because that's part of the X-ray system, I think. SR5 Sport Edition owners, correct me if I'm wrong. So I still did the zip tie under here, going through the old hull. 2 holes, one there, one on top, and then goes through there. Sits super well. Just open up the garage here and show you guys from the outside what this is looking like. Kind of hard to see. A lot more coverage. Anyways, it's freezing outside. I just lost all the heat in my garage because I did that. So I'm gonna go now, but if this was helpful, awesome. I encourage you guys to use these mud flaps. The link is down below for them. If you have any future mods or any ideas for this rig, let me know. Always doing stuff. So anyways, take care everybody. Peace.